Hi, I'm Chris with Sunlight Sheds, and this video is going to show you how to set up your watering system. It's basically the same principle for the Cool Cab, Caddy, Mini Cool Cab, Mini Caddy. What you're going to do to start is get familiar with your system. Each one of these sites is where your plants are actually going to sit, and we're going to have an air pump that's hooked up to tubing that's going to bubble air and oxygen through the water, which is going to aerate the roots and basically help feed your hydroponic system. To start, take the tubing that normally attaches to your air pump, and you can attach it by pressing the tubing onto each one of the little nipples. There's four tubes and 4 connectors. On your air pump there's a high and low control. For the most part you're always going to leave it on high, but for more information on that, check out a later part in the video. The first thing that you should get familiar with after you connect all of your tubing, which we're going to hold off on to save time in the video, is to look for your water level indicator. This item here is your water level indicator, and as the water level in your system rises, the water level is going to raise in this tube. You want your water level to be about right around the level of the net pots, the bottom of the net pots when you're growing, and about halfway up the net pots when you're germinating. So you want your water level to be somewhat near the top of your system, definitely not down here. Your water level is too low. The first thing you need to do is to take a net pot, which this is here, a 3-inch net pot, and that's actually what's going to support your plant roots and is where your plant is going to grow. So you take your net pot and you're ultimately going to put them in your sites there. Now this material here is called Sure2Grow. It's a fluffy pillow-like material. And what I personally like to do is to take and wet it first. I like to take a portion of it and actually soak it in water, get it a little wet. Now this material doesn't really wick water so much as it drains. It's very similar to hydrogen. But you can take a little cup of water and do each one individually. And what you're going to want to do is pretty much pack it so that your net pot is more or less filled to the top. Now at this point, you can take this material and take your finger or a pen and make a little hole in the center. And that hole in the center is where you're going to place your seed, or in the case of clones, what you would do is take your net pot, you take your plant, wash off the roots if it's been grown in soil, put the plant in here with the roots all the way at the bottom, and then surround it with this same white fluffy material called Sure2Grow. So you just replicate that for all 12 of your sites, fill them up, and we'll skip ahead to the next part of the video that'll walk you through the rest of the system. Okay, now at this point we filled our water level up. You can see on the water level indicator about halfway up the net pot for germination or for clones. And you can see if you look down into this reservoir that the water is bubbling up through each site. Now that's going to help keep your roots oxygenated and keep everything doing well. Now when the system's working properly, when you're germinating, you'll see the STG, this white pillow-like substance, lifting and raising lightly. That's with the bubbling action. That's not a problem. That's how you want it to look. Now it's probably tough to see on the video just how intense these lights are, but they're extremely powerful. One of these lights alone would be enough to do all the plants in this whole cabinet about the same as a 400 watt HPS or MH without any problem at all. Now you also notice that we have our air pump above the level of the reservoir. That's really important. If you take this air pump and you leave it on the floor of the chamber, which you're not supposed to do, if you ever lost power, water could go back through the tubes and into the air pump if it was on the floor, because it would be below the water line. So it's important to keep your air pump above your water line, hanging from the hook that's attached when you get your unit. Now there's also fans that are blowing into and out of the unit, circulating air and maintaining coolness. The lights here, the LED lights, produce virtually no heat, so you don't have any heat issue with your cabinet. You want the temperatures in your growing system to be in the range of 70 to 90 degrees, with your ideal being in the low 80s. The nice thing about the LEDs, once again, is that they stay nice and cool, whereas the HIDs get very hot.